Good morning, this is Luke from Ohio Premier Archery, and today we are going to review the PSE Levitate. So this bow also happens to be the bow that I picked for my one bow a year challenge. So if you're not familiar with that, we'll see if I'm tech savvy enough to put a card in the whatever, but basically what it is me and my buddy Joe realized we had a problem with our bows, so we decided to limit the amount that we could shoot from probably 5 or 6 to one bow a year for everything. We had a pretty detailed contract that we wrote up about it, so I mean this deal is pretty much bulletproof at this point. This is going to be a bow for spot shooting, for like indoor outdoor spot shooting, for 3D, for hunting, for whatever else that you could possibly want to use a bow for. If I wanted to bow fish with a compound bow, I would have to use this one. I would not, that's a terrible idea, but you get the idea. So probably what most of you guys are thinking, and what I would probably have said, is that that was a dumb choice. This is a carbon bow, so it's incredibly lightweight with minimal bushings on it, so you can't add too much weight to it. And it is also a 6-inch brace height bow. So it's on the forgiving side, it's not really there. Most of the time you're shooting a bow, like I always tell customers, is that, even if you are hunting, at most, 5–10% of your arrows are going to be shot at an animal. The rest of it is going to be in practice, so you better enjoy how that thing shoots. And, I generally tell people to go with a bow that you're going to be able to be the most accurate with. Now, all of that still being the same, I found that this bow just stuck out past the others, and I'm not like a Dudley leg humper or whatever. I think he's a good guy. What he's doing for the archery community is awesome, but the whole Nock on thing it's not a big thing for me. So like that had nothing to do with it. It wasn't a fanfare purchase. This bow is just truly unique in how it feels and how it shoots. If I'm being honest, if I had a Mach 1 and this one in at the same time, I'd have to shoot them next to each other, but more than likely I'd go with the softer cam on it. This is a screaming fast cam for kind of the setup that we're looking at here. And it feels like it. When you draw it, it feels like it. So this bow for indoor, I've already shot, a 5-spot 300 round, a Vegas 450 round. It's aggressive. Like my body is beat up. I've probably put like almost 1,000 arrows on this bow in the last 3 days. And I can feel it. It's definitely not a recommended draw cycle for indoor archery. But I was able to test this thing. So me and Joe were shooting at 110 yards the other day, and I'm not somebody who's going to give you an unrealistic picture of what my groups are. I mean, typically my groups aren't, great at 110 or 100 yards, but with this bow I was able to shoot the tightest group I've ever shot. Target bow, hunting bow, 7-inch brace, 6-inch brace, whatever. It wasn't my average, so I'll tell you that much. It wasn't my average. This bow is very demanding as far as how much I have to focus on my shot. As soon as I lose focus, like, oh my gosh, this thing, like crazy, just moves. I really have to engage good back tension when I'm shooting this thing. But proof of concept, this bow can absolutely shoot. I mean, I don't even want to say how big the group was, because I don't want to be one of those guys that's like, oh, I shot a 2-inch group at 100, whatever. But it can do it. It's just up to me. So the reason that I ended up picking this, and I didn't actually have a chance to shoot this before I chose it, as far as like any real testing. I got here late the night before the challenge started, and I saw it and I was like, okay, that's the bow. I know for a fact that whatever modern compound bow you put in my hands, you put in your hands, you put in whoever's hands, is only going to be limited by the shooter. Like this thing right here, shoot, I'll even do like an amplify or like a terrain, like a price point bow, probably even an Ember. If you put that thing in Mike Schlosser and Jesse Broadwater's hands, and you compare it up to like me or just any old guy walking in the shop, they're going to be able to smoke you. So it's always going to be up to the shooter. So the reason I picked this, not the reason, I picked it for a couple of reasons, but one of the reasons is that it's something that I'm going to have to grow with. So it will keep me honest in all of my shots, and it's going to help teach me, just focusing on my form and all that stuff. So it's not all that forgiving. It is going to make a sweet hunting bow. So right now I have 5 ounces on the back, 8-inch Shrewd Rev X, and then I got 4 ounces on the front here with this Onyx bar. Decently heavy sight. I got the CBE Trek, which is an awesome sight. I love this thing. Hamsky Trinity, so this is going to be a heavier rest as well. This is 6 pounds right here. This entire build is 6 pounds. Most bows, when they leave, you know, like when you just get them in, are like 4.5 pounds. So like this is just a crazy light setup, which Africa, I'm going to be hunting in Africa. So, you know, for those of you that haven't heard me say it a million times, this is going to be a dream bow for a spot and stock kind of situation where I can carry this thing all day. And it's honestly, it's nothing extra to carry around really. This thing is just, it's incredibly light. For tree stand hunting, the not getting cold thing is going to be pretty cool. Comes with the super wide limb pocket platform that was from the Evil. So this is, I want to say this is the biggest one that PSE's ever made. And this is the exact same limb pocket as the Evil here. Now, you do have, over the Mach 1, you have this guy right here. So this is actually a bushing built into the string stop here. So this is all one bracket, and you can add a back bar to this, and then you have your standard front bushing, which is pretty cool. I got this in the S2 cam, which, you know, the way that it was described to me, and it seems pretty accurate, is that when I draw this thing back compared to the Evolve cam, it takes that peak weight to it and it extends it about 2 inches. So it's not any more of like a higher peak weight. It's not a more aggressive draw cycle, although because of that feel, it will feel more aggressive, because what our rep was saying was that it literally just drags out that peak an extra, you know, little bit. So it's going to peak the exact same way as the Evolve cam, except it's just going to stay at that peak for about 2 inches longer. And you can feel it. I mean, when you're almost at full draw, this is definitely like one of those hump and dump kind of cams where, you know, you got to put some effort in all the way throughout the draw cycle and then dump at the end, which also isn't something that I typically like. But with lucky stops, even with this PSE standard stop that comes with the S2 cam, I'm going to be able to get the feel that I want to. But I will say on that 80% setting on this thing, it is really aggressive. Like I've definitely been taken for a ride with this thing where I'm at full draw and all of a sudden, you know, comes down on me like that. But all in all, super stoked about the bow. I can tell you that this Dead Frequency Carbon, I was a little bit fishy at first. You know, they released the Dudley bow, you know, like the Levitate, all this stuff, and it looks almost identical to the Mach 1. And I was like, okay, cool, they're just trying to sell his name. You know, which, whatever. Some people like that, especially nowadays. Some people like just because there's a celebrity attached to something that, you know, they're willing to pay more for it or whatever. But I can tell you that this bow does not seem like a gimmick as far as everything that I'm seeing right here. This DFC carbon, or this whatever. The carbon that this bow is made of. It definitely has less hand shock to it than the Mach 1. It definitely sits a little bit better. Now, if I'm also going to nitpick here, the finish on this thing, and I'm not sure what their options are because I'm not nearly as familiar with the finishes on carbon bows, but it's fragile. It's delicate. Like, it's easy to ding up. I'm going to see if I can show you it here, but... Okay. So, maybe you can see... No, this is mud here. I dropped it in the mud already. Maybe you can see it. There's like a little bit of like a rough like ridge here where you can tell that's just kind of a sloppy paint job, which isn't really all that sweet for a $1,900 bow. Let's see here. Yeah, there's a little bit of paint buildup here. Right there. Like, it's honestly not all that smooth for what you would expect it to be. And then it's super easy to mar. So, like, Joe was putting this rust on for me, and he was shaking, you know, like, I almost saw tears coming when he had to, like, run that set screw in, because there is only one burger hole here. So they do come with this kind of block to make your rest, you know, not not shift at all, which I'm sure is to make up for how fragile this paint job is, how easy to mark up this paint job is. For me, as a hunter, as a shooter, I really don't care. I mean, the only thing that's ever gonna, that I'm gonna consider when it comes to ruining my paint job is resale value, because when it's in my hands, I don't care. I'm rough with these things. Like I said, I mean, it was the second day I had this thing, and I set it in my bow pod or whatever, my little kickstand, went to pull my arrows, came back, and this thing was like this in the mud. Didn't faze me at all. I don't care about that personally, but I know to a lot of people, and from somebody that's selling the bows, $1,900 is a tremendous amount of money for the bow. And that creates a little bit of a difficulty to the dealer. Do you cause a big stink, send it back just because there's a couple imperfections in the paint? Do you just tell the customer to deal with it because it's out of your hands? What do you do? Like, you know, that's something that I can tell, like, a lot more companies are kind of rushing production a little bit just because, you know, recovering from the last couple years. I haven't seen much of it from PSE. That's for sure. I have not seen much of it from PSE, but there's just a couple areas, and it's really nothing egregious. All that being said, I can definitely talk about this bow for way too long. I think I covered the main points here. I'm just gonna shoot a couple arrow weights through the chronograph, give you guys a feel for what it's shooting at my length. Now I have a year to review this bow, so there's gonna be a lot more coming. So don't worry about that. But I am a 28.5 inch draw, and I'm shooting this at the middle draw stop, which according to Lucky Stops, I believe is like 87%. So let's take a look at how fast she is. Okay, so this is speed testing Evo. No, this is, oh wait, this isn't an Evo. PSE made a bow that isn't preceded with an Evo before. Let me grab my release. Okay, so this is the Not Evo S2 cam, 60 pounds. And this is a 370 grain arrow. This is going to be an Easton Pro Comp. This is going to be my arrow for Total Archery Challenge, for just playing around outside, long distance. It's my indoor arrow right now because I don't really care to set up a different rest. So 60 pounds, 370 grains. .291 foot a second. Gold tip kinetic 445. So this is about average for like a typical hunting weight arrow that I see. 28 inches, 60 pounds. Okay, 267 on that one. Then last arrow here, this is going to be a Carbon Express Predator, just some old junky leftovers that we got. And this is going to be for you very high weighted arrow guys. This is going to be 553. Now out of a 60 pound bow, that is, I would say that is considerably heavier than I could ever recommend, but you got a lot of guys doing weird stuff these days. So 553, is that what I said? Whatever the first number I said was correct. 245. It's actually pretty decent. This thing with 70 pound limbs would be pretty cooking with that. Alright, so thank you for checking out my review of the Levitate. Overall, gotta say, really like the bow. Picked it to shoot it for an entire year, so we will see how that goes.